Hello, and welcome to another episode of Watching Washington. It's Friday, October 27th, and my name is Nolan O'Connell.
And my name is Faith Didier. Here's a look at the big stories this week. Representative Mike Johnson won the floor vote for the House Speaker gavel this Wednesday, ending weeks of stalemate and failed nominations that followed the historic ouster of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Johnson managed to get members to rally around him as the GOP's consensus candidate. Still, he'll face multiple pressing challenges, including just weeks to pass legislation to keep the government open. The House floor vote ended on a tally of 220 to 209, with no Republicans voting against Johnson and all Democrats voting for the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. In a memo released before the internal GOP election, Johnson said his top priorities are bringing the remaining Republican-led appropriation bills to the House floor, passing a resolution to condemn Hamas, and finding a consensus with the conference for a legislative blueprint for the remainder of the term.
Israel's ambassador to the United Nations is calling for the resignation of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres after he made these comments.
It is important to also recognize the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum. The Palestinian people have been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation. They have seen their land steadily devoured by settlements and plagued by violence, their economy stifled, their people displaced, and their homes demolished. Their hopes for a political solution to their plight have been vanishing. But the grievances of the Palestinian people cannot justify the appalling attacks by Hamas, and those appalling attacks cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people.
Even though Guterres added that footnote, Israelis are outraged by the sentiment behind the initial comments. However, this outrage appears to have come as a bit of a shock to Guterres.
I am shocked by the misrepresentations by some of my statement yesterday in the Security Council, as if I was justifying acts of terror by Hamas. This is false. It was the opposite.
Tensions are certainly high as Israel continues to fight Hamas. More than 5,700 Palestinians have been killed thus far.
On Wednesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom met with Chinese President Xi Jinping as part of a week-long visit to China to promote action on climate change. During his visit, Governor Newsom visited Beijing, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and 2 provinces. According to a readout of their meeting, President Xi said he hoped Newsom's visit would enhance mutual understanding and pave the way for more cooperation between California and China. After the meeting, CNN spoke with Newsom to get more insight on how he encouraged cooperation between China and the U.S. in regards to climate change.
Well, I reinforce that. Divorce is not an option. We have to define the terms of the future. We have to live together across our differences. Look, I've got 4 young kids. I don't want to see this relationship deteriorate. It services no one. We're interdependent. 1.4 billion people. When we get to the issue of climate change, there is no solution to the climate change crisis without the cooperation of China, period, full stop. But as it relates to my kids, your kids, our kids, the world we're living in, all the stacking of stress and anxiety, we have to reconcile these differences.
As a result, China has said that they are willing to work with the U.S. to advance a mutually beneficial cooperation, to manage their differences, and to meet global challenges, among other things, so that both countries and the world benefit altogether.
The city of Orlando has decided to move forward with plans to create a memorial on the property of Pulse nightclub, where 49 people were shot and killed 7 years ago. Omar Mateen, who had pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group, opened fire in the gay nightclub on June 12, 2016, killing 49 people and injuring an additional 53 others. At the time, it was the worst mass shooting in modern U.S. history. A proposal to purchase the property for $2 million was presented and approved this past Monday, and the sale will close at the end of the month. However, this sale will not absolve the previous owners of the club from any lawsuits. This move comes after years of delay in the building the memorial. The nonprofit One Pulse Foundation announced earlier this year that it would be scaling back a planned $100 million memorial following fundraising challenges. The building still stands, but hopefully will shine as a truer testament to resilience in the future.
Former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has been granted immunity by special counsel Jack Smith to testify under oath before a grand jury. Meadows claims he warned President Trump numerous times about the claims being made about the election fraud in the days following the 2020 election. To the public, Meadows rebuffed the claim, yet to investigators behind closed doors, Meadows testified to the contrary. In his 2021 book, The Chief's Chief, Meadows cited a stolen and rigged election brought on by the allies in the liberal media. However, Meadows privately testified to special counsel that he has to this day yet to see any evidence of fraud and agrees with the government's assessment that the 2020 election was the most secure in history. Time will tell how these revelations will impact President Trump's 2024 run, as the single federal conviction could bring it to an end.
On Tuesday evening this week, many meteorologists did not feel Hurricane Otis needed much reporting. However, by Wednesday morning, weather channels across the world had plenty to say. In Acapulco, Mexico, Hurricane Otis struck the southern Pacific coast. The Washington Post reported that more than 504,000 residents woke up without power after Otis hit Acapulco. Although the hurricane was originally categorized as a 5, it had been lowered to a Category 2 storm as the storm developed. The president of Mexico, Andres Manuel Lopez, reported that the storm caused property damage, landslides, obstructed roads, and a complete loss of communication in some areas. Despite the damage, luckily, no lives have been taken. The New York Times reports that the storm caught so many off guard because it is not common for a tropical storm to escalate to a Category 5 so quickly. A forecaster with the National Hurricane Center, Eric Blake, wrote that Hurricane Otis created a, quote, nightmarish scenario simply because of the damage that was done in such a short amount of time. Also on Wednesday morning, a new Hurricane Tammy was developing about 500 miles southeast of Bermuda, making with this storm headed towards the Western Hemisphere, reaching a Category 2 level, as it is definitely something that off the coast of Atlantic that we should keep an eye on.
Up next, find out what major company dozens of states are suing over addiction and harm to adolescents.
Plus, Panera lovers, pay attention. We have a crucial story coming up. Stay with us. More Watching Washington next.
At Purdue University, we're not just students, we're future leaders. Join Air Force ROTC to embark on a journey of honor, excellence, and service. Learn, lead, and soar to new heights. It's not just a commitment, it's a calling. Purdue Air Force ROTC, where dreams take flight. Are you ready to rise?
I got a switch in my head. I go from living to dead. You got me seeing all red. Now I'm becoming.
The Center for C-SPAN, which is this organization, the CCSC, what we do is we facilitate like a bunch of organizations, different programs for Brian Lamb, which is the founder of C-SPAN. Anyone can be part of CCSC, whether it be through our various internships, our competitions, just to be involved, even like our student community meetings that we have every week. Anyone can go, you don't have to be communications or poli-sci. You just meet so many people, the connections you make is kind of crazy, the range that CCSC has. So yeah, it's just provided me so many opportunities to like kind of achieve the goals I have personally and forward to like whatever career paths I choose.
Dozens of states are suing Meta, the parent of Instagram, over the addiction and harm the social media platform allegedly causes young people. A federal lawsuit was filed in California Tuesday by more than 30 attorney generals. The states claim Meta's products have harmed young users' mental health with its addictive features such as infinite news feeds and frequent notifications, and that Instagram has contributed to a mental health crisis in the United States. The federal lawsuit marks the latest attempt by states to rein in large tech platforms over fears that social media companies are fueling a spike in youth depression and suicide ideation.
Meta is well aware of these harms, yet it continued to develop and implement these features, this behavioral cocaine, to make its platform increasingly addictive to more and more young people. Meta exploited the particular vulnerabilities of young users by designing purposely addictive platform features that take advantage of their limited ability to self-regulate.
The 33 attorney generals have a long road ahead in the federal lawsuit against the conglomerate Meta.
This week, Michael Cohen, a lawyer and fixer for Donald Trump, came face-to-face with his former employer for the first time in 5 years. In a civil fraud trial currently going on in regards to the former president's alleged inflating of the value of his assets in order to land better business deals and tax benefits. In 2019, Cohen said before lawmakers, quote, "It was my experience that Mr. Trump inflated his total assets when it served his purposes, such as trying to be listed amongst the wealthiest people in Forbes and deflating his assets to reduce his real estate taxes." Trump arrived in court a few minutes later after Cohen, despite his attendance not being mandatory. They had no direct interactions Tuesday, and it did not even make eye contact. Although, when they returned to court on Wednesday, Trump stormed out after the judge refused to dismiss the case based on one comment made by Cohen.
The witness just admitted that we won the trial, and the judge should end this trial immediately. Thank you.
Later, we got a comment from Cohen himself while he was leaving court Wednesday about what he had perceived that happened that day.
I saw a defeated man. I saw somebody that knows that it's the end of the Trump organization, already found guilty of fraud. The license will ultimately be taken, and now this entire case is merely about how much. This is merely about how much disgorgement the Attorney General will be seeking.
Cohen is done testifying for now, but the trial isn't over, and after headed directly into the airport after Wednesday's events, the former president is not expected to be seen back in the courtroom.
A Washington state lawmaker was arrested on a gun charge at Hong Kong International Airport Saturday, October 21st. Washington State Senator Jeff Wilson was charged with possession of a firearm without a license, which is an offense punishable by up to 14 years in prison and a fine of more than $12,000. According to a statement from Wilson, baggage screeners failed to note the firearm on a prior connecting flight when passing through TSA security in Portland. Wilson said he discovered the firearm weapon mid-flight between San Francisco and Hong Kong. When the plane landed, he immediately told Customs about the issue. Wilson appeared in the Shangtin Magistrates Court on Monday, October 23rd, and was granted bail.
Parents of a 21-year-old Sarah Katz are suing Panera Bread after their daughter died from cardiac arrest 1 year ago after drinking the popular charged lemonade drink. Sarah Katz knew she had a heart condition called long QT syndrome and took medication to control it. Her heart condition limited her caffeine intake, according to CNN. The charged lemonade contains 390 milligrams of caffeine, where Katz's parents alleged that Panera failed to specify how much caffeine the drink has. The FDA regulates 400 milligrams of caffeine per day for healthy adults. As this lawsuit takes place, we may start to see stricter laws for labels in the food industry.
The long-awaited state dinner, thrown in honor of Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, commenced this past Wednesday in Washington, D.C. According to the Associated Press, the White House, historically known for turning up the glitz and glamour for these events, kept the pizzazz to a minimum in light of the struggles taking place in the Middle East. More than 300 guests were in attendance to celebrate the close ties between the two countries. Lower-profile entertainment and comfort food were provided to create a more calming atmosphere by Jill Biden's request. The First Lady stated that nurturing our partnerships and our relationships with our allies is critically important, especially in these tumultuous times. Food is comforting, reassuring, and healing, and we hope that this dinner provides a little of that as well. Dinner was served in a pavilion on the White House lawn, decorated in pastel shades and sparkling flower chandeliers, representing Australian spring and American autumn. Despite the current happenings in the Middle East, the White House was insistent that postponing or canceling was not an option.
A Maryland Circuit Court judge was killed hours after a divorce hearing, and the lead suspect has been found days later. Judge Andrew Wilkinson was found Thursday evening in his driveway and was taken to a nearby hospital after he was found to have been shot multiple times. The judge had just heard a divorce hearing hours before, one that ended with Judge Wilkinson granting full custody to a mother for their 4 children. The father of those children, Pedro Argote, is the lead suspect in the death, and search for him has been ongoing for over a week. Police confirmed last weekend that Argote's vehicle had been found abandoned in the woods in Maryland. With such a large amount of time since locating the vehicle in the woods, officers originally suggested that Argote could have made it pretty far. However, local police later found Argote's body in the woods not far from his vehicle, which was just 8 miles from where Argote allegedly shot Judge Wilkinson's. Argote's cause of death has not yet been released.
On Tuesday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton formally announced that he is suing the Biden administration for destroying wire at the U.S.-Mexico border, according to a source from CNN. This lawsuit alleges that federal agents are developing and implementing practices to destroy the concertina wire, a type of barbed wire to encourage and assist people to cross the Rio Grande and enter the U.S., according to a press release from the Attorney General. Attorney General Paxton says that by cutting Texas's concertina wire, the federal government has not only illegally destroyed property owned by the state of Texas, it has also disrupted the state border's security efforts. This legal battle adds to ongoing fights between the state and the Biden administration over border security during a time of increasing migration into the U.S.
Our in-studio guest this week, Nick Yax, has a major role in Purdue Student Government. Find out what he has to say.
The full interview just ahead on Watching Washington.
We are energetic, we are motivating, and we are unique.
I don't think you can beat Quidditch.
Are you looking for a new hobby?
Or you want to have a fun evening with your friends?
Then come climb to new heights at the Co-Rec climbing wall.
We have a special guest with us in the studio this week, Purdue Student Government's Press Secretary, Nick Yax. He's standing by with Nolan.
Thank you. That's right. I've got Nick Yax with me today to discuss the topic of student government here at Purdue University. Thanks for being here with me.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to talking over all issues PSG.
Yeah, absolutely. And my first question for you today is, can you provide an overview of the roles and responsibilities of our Purdue Student Government?
Yeah, absolutely. So Purdue Student Government really is a bunch of different things, but the way I describe it best is essentially a mouthpiece for students to speak to the university, to our officials at the university, and try to influence change with the university as a whole. And we kind of do that through 4 distinct elements, and the first being the cabinet, which is made up of the president and vice president, who are elected by the student body, and then a number of other officials, including myself, like the press secretary, who are appointed by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. So that group really works to implement the president's vision. So President Robinson this year came in with a lot of different priorities, one being raising the minimum wage of student workers here at Purdue. So that's one of the big issues we're working on.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then the next kind of facet of PSG is the Senate. And so the Senate is kind of the boots on the ground. They're the ones who are working to hear what their constituents are saying and implement that as a form, and in the form of like legislation. Mm-hmm. And so they're doing that through holding office hours, through sending out newsletters, things like that to their constituents, and then bringing that to the Senate floor as legislation. legislation to try to influence change. And then the next group is the board of directors, which is kind of an offshoot of the cabinet. It's overseen by the cabinet, but it's made up of executive directors and a bunch of different committees. And they hold events, and they're really the ones that do a lot of the legwork to make sure PSG holds its events, and things like that just kind of run a tight ship to make sure everything
That's a much more in-depth system than I would have thought.
Yeah.
That's a lot like the minimum wage thing. That's a much more power than I would have thought a student government on a campus could have, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
My next question is, what do you believe that primary reasons for why students should get involved with this student government?
Yeah. That's a great question. And, I think the primary reason students should get involved is because there's just so much to do at the university level, so many different ideas, and we love to have so many different viewpoints involved. There's kind of a misnomer that PSG is just made up of poli-sci majors, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Each college has 3 senators, so we have a big group of people from different colleges, different disciplines. And so we really want to be able to bring in people who have different interests and different kind of backgrounds and lived experiences. And so that's why I would encourage, all sorts of different people to get involved, because really that's the best way for us to represent the students, is by having a lot of different students involved.
Because I could see a huge benefit to having the student senate be made up of like a lot of different people
Absolutely.
from all the different colleges, coming together and trying to make, a better system for us all.
Definitely.
And my next question is, what advice would you give to students who are interested in getting involved? Like, how would you join the Senate, right?
Yeah, so the Senate holds elections in the spring, and more information will be coming out about that, mass emails, things of that nature. It'll be on Instagram as well if you're interested in doing something like that. But there's also a lot of different avenues to get involved. Like I said, board of directors. We also have the Student Supreme Court. Students can get involved as justices, clerks, things like that. Just reach out to somebody who's currently involved, or send an email to Purdue Student Government at purdue.edu. We'd be more than happy to find a spot for you based on your interests and your time commitment. Like I said, there's so many different avenues to get involved. We can definitely find something. If you only have an hour of free time, we can find something for you. But if you want to dedicate more time, there's certainly avenues for you to do that as well.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And in that sense, like what projects could students be expecting to get involved with when they join the student government right now?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different ongoing projects. I mentioned the minimum wage proposal that's currently being worked on by Cabinet. Talking about Senate just passed a bill that seeks to implement a professor and instructor appreciation week. Wow. And they also passed a bill that would implement a Juneteenth recognition on the university calendar. Outside of that, the Financial Affairs Committee with the Student Senate is also working to approve small grants to student organizations, so all sorts of different avenues to get involved there in the Senate. And then Board of Directors has a lot of different things. They're just starting to work on Mental Health Action Week, which will be in the spring, and then they're also working on a couple other things. They just had a midterms de-stress event, so a lot of different events, things to get involved in.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great that we just have an organization like that on campus that just people wouldn't even know is there doing all this stuff for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And lastly, with the 2024 presidential election fast approaching, why do you think it's important for students to learn more about governments as a whole and educate themselves on candidates and actually go out and vote?
Yeah, of course. So I feel like, and I felt like this for a long time, but Purdue and college in general is like such a great place to learn and get involved in politics, because you're around so many people with different lived experiences and different backgrounds and different political identities. And so you can really talk to people and learn a lot about how they feel and how they view certain issues and how their perceptions and their life experiences influence those views. And it's such a different environment because once you graduate, you'll be around all sorts of different people, but you're never in an environment like you are at college, where you have the chance to also go to, college Republicans, college Democrats, political discourse meetings, things like that. And so you're so well poised to get involved at this age. And so that's why I think it's so important to take advantage of those opportunities. So that way when you go to vote, you feel prepared, you feel ready, and you feel like you can adequately, choose candidates, not just for president, but on all those down ballot races, like maybe state representative, state senate, even city council.
Those are critical. And thank you so much. And I couldn't have said it better myself, that it is imperative for all of us to get involved with governments on a local level, on a government, on a state level, and on a federal level. And thank you so much for being here with me today and answering all these questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Nolan. And thank you for watching. This concludes this week's episode of Watching Washington. We're looking forward to bringing you more news next week.
Imagine a world where Olympics and Paralympics are unified as one, and where all athletes at all levels have equal opportunities to play and perform at their full potential.
Athletics has been such an influential and transformative aspect of my life. So to me, RISE is about ensuring that every person that has the desire to participate in sport has the opportunity to do so.
This organization is about recognition. We believe in recognizing excellence where it is found, especially in Paralympic sports.
RISE is about driving change in our community and beyond. We hope that through our events and initiatives, we can galvanize people for our cause and inspire them to create an ever-growing network to help achieve our mission.
It's about connecting people of various backgrounds and who truly care about creating meaningful change together.
We develop projects and hold events to bring people together at the interface of inclusivity, sports, and engineering.
Our goal is to promote the equality of all sports and to improve sports performance and accessibility.
Join us so that you can have a major contribution in creating meaningful change.
Are you looking for a new hobby?
Or you want to have a fun evening with your friends?
Then come climb to new heights at the Co-Rec climbing wall.
Three, two, one.
Bringing you your campus forecast.
I'm Julia Prickett.
I'm Veda Kirsch. I'm Lily Tordill.
We are Fast Track Weather.
Football. It's the best time of the year. You know what else is great? The world's largest and fastest mascot. You can't have Purdue football without the trains. Look for the Reamer Club outside Stewart Center, 12 to 5 p.m. on Fridays before home football games, for your chance to ride the Boilermaker Special for free. See you then!
Want to try something new?
How about learning an Irish jig? Come leap into the semester with the Irish Dance Club. No experience is necessary, so come to a meeting at the Stewart Center from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Mondays and Wednesdays. See you there.